The entire sky went black really, really fast, and we just heard the loudest bang.
All you could hear was screams and trees cracking. My husband looked at me and says, "Jennifer, we're in some serious trouble here."
These are wind speeds that are not to be fooled with. This is serious destructive power.
I run to my son, and his eyes weren't rolled back in his head.
Front window gone, side window gone.
The moment that I knew this wasn't going to be a regular storm was when I passed the municipal snow plow in July.
Oh, man.
With Mother Nature, you have no control.
We've always had extreme weather. But over the last 20 years, as climate change has accelerated, it has mutated and become more dangerous and unpredictable. From dry lightning, to the polar vortex, to bomb cyclones, and the fire-nado. Welcome to the new reality. Welcome to mutant weather. The sky above us is not infinite. In reality, the atmosphere is just a thin skin of gas held to the Earth by gravity. And that atmosphere has been fundamentally altered since the beginning of the Industrial Age. And now, we are pumping over 35 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere each year. As the atmosphere heats, the sky often reacts with lightning, hail, and deadly storms.
By burning fossil fuels, we've actually changed the chemistry of the atmosphere, and the weather that will occur in a particular location today will most probably not be that was typical of the past.
But as carbon-fueled climate change accelerates the heating of our planet, these weather events begin to mutate, occurring more often, more unexpectedly, with greater intensity.
When you've got an increase of carbon up in our atmosphere, that can contribute to intensify ongoing climate change impacts. So that means warmer conditions, that could mean drier conditions, and that could mean more of these storms.
Climate change has supercharged the sky, unleashing incredible hazards from above.
These monster storms, especially these supercell storms, are the most damaging, destructive, violent storms on planet Earth.
We're talking about the amount of potential energy that is equivalent to multiple Hiroshima bombs setting off at the same time. That's the energy scale associated with thunderstorms in some of the most unstable conditions.
Southern Ontario, June 2014. Chris and Simon Burden are spending a rare day off together.
My brother and I are very close. We shared a lot of things growing up. Ever since we moved to Canada from England, we were really all we had for each other. Golfing was something we took up when we came to Canada.
Chris is a critical care nurse. His brother Simon is a police officer.
It was a normal morning, a beautiful morning actually. It was great sunshine. We were excited to hit a nice round of 18. We got our cart, we hit the first hole. Sand it.
2 hours into their round, gray clouds start to appear on the horizon.
We hadn't checked the weather that morning, and by the time we got to the 8th, we could kind of see some rumblings in the distance. Certainly weren't sure if they were coming our way, because obviously in a big open place like this, you never know where it's going to go.
A warmer atmosphere can create more convective energy, the fuel for the convective storm that the brothers will soon be forced to confront.
When we talk about convective storms, really that's thunderstorms. Convection is just the way air rises through the atmosphere to create thunderstorms.
We are all familiar with the idea of convection. If you put on a pot of water to boil, it's going to heat up and you're going to have bubbles that eventually come up off the bottom of that pot. That's convection. The same thing happens in our atmosphere. The sun heats the ground heats the surrounding air, that air wants to rise just like the bubbles in our pot, and at some point that rising air is going to form a cloud. And those clouds may, if they're strong enough, go on to produce storms, sometimes big storms.
Unfortunately for Chris and Simon, The storm that's heading towards them is a very big storm indeed.
We were on the fairway of the 8th. We heard the club siren, actually, to warn golfers that adverse weather is coming.
The wind was picking up, starting to spit a little bit, like a little bit of rain. The siren means to get off the golf course and get cover and get safe.
In the face of lightning, it's important to seek shelter because lightning can be certainly deadly to humans. Lightning and humans do not mix.
Right away, we packed up our stuff and we started heading back into the clubhouse. And on the way, we could see multiple people that were still golfing. And I figured they were just trying to finish their quick round before the weather kind of hit. We could hear in the distance some rumblings of thunder, and that's when everything kind of went south at that point.
Thunderstorms are extremely common. There are hundreds or even thousands of them that happen across the world every single day. These garden variety thunderstorms are just planet Earth's way of redistributing heat and changes in atmospheric pressure. But every now and then, when the conditions are just right, these regular thunderstorms can become monsters.
With more heat available to fuel these storms, scientists are warning us that we'll face more monster storms in the future. The northern nation of Canada is warmest along its southern border, where thunderstorms are most frequent. And the country's thunderstorm epicenter is southern Ontario, with up to 35 thunderstorm days each year. July 2017, Canada's Ostler Lake Provincial Park is a heavily wooded park just east of picturesque Georgian Bay.
I've always loved camping. I've been camping since I was a little girl with my father and continue to camp with my husband. It's a chance to get away from the big city, to enjoy the nature and the peace of it all.
On July 7th, 2017, Jennifer Foti, her husband, and pet dog set up camp at their favorite spot, expecting typical summer weather.
The day that we went, it was a beautiful day, perfect summer weather. The forecast for the 2 weeks that we were going to be there was great.
The campers are oblivious to the mounting threat in the sky above them.
My husband and I were having dinner, and we saw that our little Shih Tzu was panicking. I walked around the tent, and I noticed in the distance a lightning storm was approaching.
Mike Foley has been protecting Ontario's wildland parks for 30 years.
We are here as good land stewards for the property that we're charged with protecting. We're here to protect resources that are found on the property, be it the land or the water. We provide a level of protection for the local tourists. We try to be ahead of any sort of severe weather changes before they actually occur.
The heat and humidity of July create the perfect conditions for thunderstorms in southern Ontario. But in most cases, these storms don't present much of a threat.
We get a cloud, and then where that cloud goes from there, there's a million other different ingredients that we're looking for. Can it rotate? Will it have rain? Will it have hail? Will it have snow? Will it have strong winds, microbursts, straight line winds? There's so many different characteristics that come with each thunderstorm.
This July, the sky is brewing a dangerous storm that none of the campers at the provincial park could have anticipated.
In order for there to be storms, you need to have moisture, that hot, humid air. That's the fuel for the storm. You need to have winds in the upper atmosphere that are moving at different speeds or different directions to shake up that wind. And you need something to kick it off. A drastic change in temperature, like a warm front or a cold front coming into your neighborhood. That is enough sometimes to kick all that ingredients up into the atmosphere, where they then produce these huge thunderstorms.
As we were watching the lightning in the distance, we figured that it was going to rain. I've always enjoyed storms. It's one of my favorite days when the thunder comes rolling in.
Having watched storms for years, Jennifer and her husband don't expect anything different from this storm.
My husband and I thought it would be a great idea to put the chairs under our canopy and watch the lightning off of the lake.
In Stouffville, Ontario, A big storm rolls across the sky. Brothers Chris and Simon Burden are forced to take refuge.
We got back to the clubhouse and it really started to rain. The weather had gone from a really sunny, cloudy day to extreme rain really quickly.
Thunderstorms are very different than, say, a big winter system or a tropical system. Thunderstorms happen in the short term, in the matter of minutes. They could be racing across the Central Plains as much as, 80 miles per hour, over 100 kilometers an hour. So those are very dangerous because they move so quickly.
The entire sky went black really, really fast, and it got really, really dark. We were lining up to get some food, and we just heard the loudest bang.
It shook the building, it shook me. The sound was extraordinary. Like, it was one of the loudest sounds I've ever heard. And the only thing I could compare it to would be a cannon blast going off.
You knew that lightning had hit really close. It was just pure white light. Never to that intensity have I ever experienced anything that was just so bright, so loud, and just, you felt it right inside your whole body, how intense it really was.
Lightning is formed in a thunderstorm where positive and negative electron charges are separated by ice and water going up and down in the storm. And then that separation of charges creates a spark, and that sparks a lightning strike. Most lightning actually occurs within the thunderstorm and stays within the thunderstorm. Only a small amount descend from the bottom of the storm and strike the ground.
Some research suggests that lightning activity will increase as climate change continues.
It heats up the air to a temperature of 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than the sun, much hotter than the sun. So just to kind of give you an idea of the power and the heat that lightning generates.
The brothers are reeling from the shock of being so close to a lightning strike.
We saw a gentleman actually run into the clubhouse, and he said, "Oh my God, somebody's just been hit by lightning." I looked at my brother and I said, "Oh my God, we've got to go."
In Osler Lake Provincial Park, Ontario, a pleasant camping trip is about to turn into a terrifying ordeal as a vicious storm tracks towards the park.
So when people go camping, they come here to disconnect from media. And they're not often behind the TV watching the news or reading the newspapers. So if over the course of the day we're monitoring the weather and we see the warning, we'll go out and advise our campers. They might want to start getting prepared.
But with a mutant storm bearing down on the park, there isn't much time for preparation.
Storm rolled through at about 11:15 on that Friday evening.
Mike is at home when he gets a phone call from a staff member at the park.
My staff called to advise the storm was coming through. They indicated there was a few trees down and that they were going in to do an assessment.
It quickly becomes clear that this event is no ordinary thunderstorm.
The alarm in their voice indicated that this was a little more severe than what we've been used to in the past.
There are different types of thunderstorms: a single-cell thunderstorm, a multi-cell thunderstorm, and then the big gun, the supercellular thunderstorm.
Single-cell thunderstorms are those little storms that pop up in the summertime. They rain themselves out and go away in about 30 minutes. Multi-cell storms have multiple cells. So a storm forms, there's cold air that is put out from the rain, and it moves outward and lifts the air to create more cells. So they can be very long-lasting. The supercell, it has a rotating updraft, the vertical winds in the storm. We often call them the granddaddy of all of the types of storms that we see because they can be so severe and dangerous.
If climate change causes more supercellular storms, the results could be catastrophic. Jennifer and her husband are suddenly blindsided by the storm.
Within minutes, that light wind turned into the heaviest wind that I've ever experienced in my life. My husband looked at me with a worried look on his face and says, "Jennifer, we're in some serious trouble here." This was the first time that I've ever seen a look in his face that he was so scared he didn't know what to do.
Although thunderstorms occur virtually everywhere on the globe during the summer, In the warmest parts of the planet, they can happen year-round. In Australia's warm, arid climate, thunderstorms are a regular occurrence. Climate change has brought stifling temperatures and a years-long drought.
When you've got drier fuels, you've got a greater chance for things to light up for a fire event. Then you pair that with an increase in your storm frequency, so that's your ignition source. We've got dry fuel and a lighter. You're gonna have more fire.
In January 2016, a lightning strike in Western Australia ignites a wildfire that consumes more than 170,000 acres, killing 2 people. And in the fall of 2019, lightning is believed to have started a bushfire in New South Wales, killing hundreds of koalas in a breeding ground. As the fires approach Sydney, 3,000 firefighters have little hope of subduing the flames until the weather comes to their aid.
The tropics of the globe receive the most convective storms of any place on Earth. They have the warmest air and they have the most humid air.
So areas along the equator get a lot of daily thunderstorms. Florida gets a lot of thunderstorms. But those types of thunderstorms usually don't have what we call upper level support. So what that means is they're not anywhere near cold air. It's just warm, so they can produce lightning, sometimes a little bit of winds, but generally non-severe.
On average, parts of Florida see a thunderstorm on 100 days each year. Bordered by water and with a subtropical climate, the area between Tampa and Orlando is known as Lightning Alley. The state has the most lightning activity and the most lightning-related fatalities in the United States.
We have very warm, humid bodies of water nearby, the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, even the Caribbean Sea. So we have a lot of moisture in the air. And then we have the sea breezes, and they move inland from both the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic Coast. So you have the east coast and west coast of Florida being a peninsula. When those sea breezes come together, that forces the air to rise. That's your lift.
September 2019, Central Florida. Bill Muller and his son head out for a day on the soccer field.
Braden, we had to force feed him soccer at age 5. But after that first year, he was on it, loved it. From early on, we knew he wanted to be a goalkeeper.
Good job, Braden.
On this day, Braden wants to watch his friend play in a local tournament.
A little overcast to start the day. I think his game was around 10 o'clock in the morning. Some rain was coming down a little bit, never enough to where they didn't pause the game, didn't stop the game, nothing like that.
When the tournament is over, Braden is eager to get in some practice with his dad.
My son had mentioned to me, Dad, these are amazing fields. We've got to bring our stuff to practice for just a little bit because the fields are immaculate, man. You could eat off of them, you know? The skies were parting. I vividly remember the rays of the sun poking through. It was a nice day.
Anderson Da Silva is a coach at the tournament. He is well aware of the dangers of lightning in Florida.
I was born in São Paulo, Brazil. Over there, we have some lightning, but not as many as here. You know, over here it's non-stop.
As a high school soccer coach, Anderson knows to be aware of where the lightning is tracking.
I checked the lightning app, and it was over 200 miles away. And I thought, oh, okay, you know, it's really far.
Like many other regions where lightning is common, most of Florida's public spaces have lightning detectors.
Lightning detectors are great because, well, they let you know that there's lightning within a certain distance, but that's not going to predict where the next strike's going to occur. And then, unfortunately, we see too many cases of people being struck by lightning from the first lightning strike of a storm.
Under a partly cloudy sky, Braden and his father enjoy a friendly game of soccer on the pristine field.
He had just scored a goal on me off to my left side, so I was retrieving that ball out of the net when I heard this god-awful sound. As soon as I heard this sound, I knew it wasn't good. I didn't 100% knew what it was at first, but I knew it wasn't good. It was the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. It was insane. Stop what I'm doing, turn, and I watch in him, he's falling over.
At a Stouffville, Ontario golf course, a day of golf ends early when a ferocious thunderstorm descends on the area. While the Burton brothers are taking cover from the heavy rain, they hear that some of the golfers had been struck by lightning.
The second we got outside, we started running. We ran to the 18th green, and there was 4 people lying on the ground.
With lightning striking, with wind blowing, with the rain coming down, you're running into a situation where you can't decide if lightning's going to hit the tree next to you or if it's going to hit you. With Mother Nature, you have no control.
We always advise people not to take shelter under trees or near metal objects because that lightning actually moves through the ground and you could act as the discharge point for that lightning strike.
Just being outside, doesn't matter what you're holding, you know, you're outside, you're already at risk, you know, if there's a thunderstorm nearby or overhead of being struck by lightning.
As the brothers approach the 4 golfers, some of them begin to stir.
A couple of them were kind of moving a little bit. We knew that they were obviously still alive.
We approached the first body that was closest to us. We checked him, he was breathing and he was moving slightly. Someone called that there was another body that was still on the ground that wasn't breathing.
His shirt was burned, it was torn, it had holes in his pants. His hat had burned off, it was to the side of him. The top part of the cap to the peak had melted away. His skin was melted away, and he had blood around the nose and the mouth.
I saw black marks and burn marks on his hand that were, to me, were obvious signs that the lightning struck his golf club and entered through his hand. And then I saw burn marks and holes through his pant leg, which seemed where the lightning had exited his body into the ground.
Obviously, after I checked his pulse, we knew that he was dead.
In Ostler Lake Provincial Park, Jennifer Foti and her husband are in a battle for their safety when a sudden storm intensifies at a startling rate.
You could hear a wind tunnel. It was so strong, the wind, it was pushing us from side to side. We were getting thrown everywhere. We were being tossed, not back and forth, we were being tossed in a circle. Trees outside, you could hear them cracking. They were being pulled out. You could hear things being thrown around.
Jennifer and her husband are caught in an unusually powerful phenomenon called a downburst.
In a severe thunderstorm, when that warm air goes up into the clouds, it cools, condenses, forms rain droplets. That rain-cooled air now will want to drop. And sometimes it drops very violently and rapidly. And when that violently descending air hits the ground, it's got nowhere to go. So it spreads out. So you end up with this spread of damage from these downburst winds.
The storm system that clobbers the park creates a swath of wreckage in the area. Its most violent effects come out of the blue, leaving campers with nowhere to go for safe cover.
The storm came southward down Oster Park Drive, stayed pretty close to the road, and then it got a bit wider as it came into the park and moved into the park, swept through, and then went out this way towards the west.
A strong downburst can be as strong as an EF2 tornado. So these are wind speeds that are not to be fooled with. I mean, this is serious, serious destructive power.
The enhanced Fujita, or EF scale, is used to categorize tornadoes based on the damage they cause. At EF2, a tornado can uproot large trees with winds between 111 and 135 miles per hour. Convective storm systems can manifest in a variety of ways.
This is a monster.
Such as a derecho, a fast-moving network of thunderstorms that form into a chain more than 240 miles long, with gusts of wind over 58 miles per hour. On May 15th, 2018, in West Virginia, a derecho forms and travels over 450 miles north along the East Coast, ultimately reaching as far as Connecticut.
A derecho is sort of a leading edge of this long bowing wind system that emerges from this complex of thunderstorms. As they move along, they can destroy anything in its pathway.
Some derechos can have wind speeds in excess of 50 meters per second, which can create a large amount of destruction.
This storm is potentially the first derecho to reach New York City in many years. Along the East Coast, tidal gauges record water levels rising sharply, leading to a meteotsunami, or a tsunami caused by the weather.
A tsunami is generated by a seismic event, whereas a meteotsunami is generated by strong winds that create waves that are propelled inland and hit the shore.
On his way to Ostler Lake Provincial Park, Superintendent Mike Foley is 45 minutes away.
On my drive up, it was quite ominous with very high lightning up in the clouds that was just non-stop bursts of lightning. So for me, that very eerie feeling as you drove up the highway, the moment for me that I knew this wasn't going to be a regular run-of-the-mill storm was when I passed the municipal snow plow in July pushing trees off the road. It was a little alarming. There was 400 plus people in the park, so certainly my concern was for those campers as well as my staff members that were in the park.
In the dead of night, the destructive power of the storm is even more terrifying.
The fact that we couldn't see anything, that made it even worse. All you could hear was screams and trees cracking, and you don't know where they're coming or if something is going to hit you. The rain started to come down extremely hard. It was filling in our tent. You could hear a massive noise outside, trees cracking, people yelling. I was extremely scared.
In the mayhem, objects are being thrown around by the wind.
Something hit my shoulder. I was knocked down to the ground. At this point, we had about knee-deep water in our tent, and the tent collapsed. At that moment, I really thought that our lives were in jeopardy.
And the storm is about to get even worse.
Hail started coming down, and it was the size of golf balls. So we were getting hit by the hail.
Hail is an interesting weather phenomenon. It forms in severe thunderstorms, oftentimes during the warm season.
The warming climate can cause the sky to unleash many potentially deadly weather events, from high winds to tornadoes, flash flooding to giant hailstones. Guadalajara, Mexico, July 2019. Summertime temperatures have been in the 80s for days, when residents wake up to find their city is buried in almost 6 feet of hail, covering cars completely.
As that warm, moist air is going up into the storm, it carries raindrops with it, and it goes up into the colder parts of the atmosphere. Well, those rain droplets then freeze, and they get held up there by that updraft. At some point, gravity is gonna win, and down comes the hail.
In each year since 2008, there has been well over $10 billion in property damage from hailstorms in the U.S. Farms are especially vulnerable. Each year, as much as hundreds of millions of dollars of crops are destroyed in hailstorms.
Front window gone. Side window gone. Back window gone.
Hail can break windshields. Hail can knock someone right out. Sometimes you can see hail collect on the roads and it actually looks like it could be plowed with a snowplow because there's so much little hail.
In Stouffville, Ontario, a day of golf has turned into a nightmare. A lightning strike has left one man dead on the 18th green of a secluded golf course.
He was lying on his back, and his hand was off to the side.
Critical care nurse Chris Burden and his police officer brother Simon assess the situation.
The rain was still pouring, the clouds were still black, we could still hear thunder and lightning around us. We knew the environment was not safe. We could hear other people in the background yelling, we need to get out of here, this lightning could hit again.
Chris knows that if there's any chance of reviving this man, it's all up to him and his brother.
It was a case of we need to do what we need to do to help this guy. We could not do rescue breathing because of the blood around the nose and the mouth.
As the storm rages on around them, the brothers' only option is to do chest compressions.
I could immediately smell burn. And I remember doing a CPR and I could feel, you know, like a looseness. Everything I was experiencing was very visceral. It was very intense.
Despite the immediate personal danger, Chris and Simon continue applying chest compressions in a desperate attempt to save this stranger's life.
The gentleman actually moved. He actually moved his head a little bit to me. And I was trying to ascertain whether that was a reflex or if he physically had started to rouse. I told my brother to stop for a second so I could check his pulse. And he had a very fast pulse.
In Florida, Bill Muller is playing soccer with his son Braden on a beautiful day when there's a deafening bang and the 12-year-old collapses to the ground.
I run to my son and I knew it wasn't good. His eyes weren't rolled back in his head. And one thing I'll never forget about that day was just the smell of burnt hair and burnt skin. It was a nasty smell. When I got to him, there was only explanation in my head. You know, it had to be lightning.
But Bill has never before seen a lightning strike on a sunny day.
There's a common misconception that you have to be very close to the thunderstorm and the rain to get struck by lightning, but there's something really dangerous called clear sky or bolt from the blue lightning. The technical term is positive lightning. When you have a thunderstorm, oftentimes some of the high-level clouds move out ahead of the actual thunderstorm, and there's ice in those clouds. And so you get something called positive lightning. As you get positive charge that comes down from the cloud, it meets up with negative charge that comes up from our head or from a tree, and when they meet, they discharge as lightning.
Those are the ones that tend to be the deadliest because they're the ones that catch people by surprise.
As I screamed for someone to call 911, this guy comes flying in. He flies in and jumps on my son's chest and doesn't hesitate, doesn't make eye contact with me. He just starts doing compressions. I said, "You're hurting my son. Stop. You're hurting my son." He goes, "Sir, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop."
Soccer coach Anderson Da Silva has CPR and first aid training.
He screamed again. Got a little bit more serious this time. He got a little bit closer to me and, you know, "You're hurting my son." I said, I can't stop, and kept doing it. And then the third time, that's when I made eye contact. And I said, "I need help, and I can't stop." I knew he didn't have a heartbeat. That I knew.
An ambulance arrives, and the EMTs take over, trying to save Braden's life.
I back off, and they start doing their thing, and I see them load him on the stretcher. It was that moment, and I had to call my wife. You know?
There are 45 flashes of lightning every second on the planet.
Oh my God!
A remarkable number of them occur in India during monsoon season. Rain falls for months over India, partially powered by the temperature difference between the ocean and the land. Since 1950, as climate change has disrupted this dynamic, extreme rainfall events have tripled. Each year, at least 2,000 people die as a result of lightning strikes in India, about 19 times more per capita than the United States. In July 2019, in the province of Uttar Pradesh, 33 people are killed in a vicious thunderstorm that causes the collapse of 20 houses. Days later, in Bihar province, thousands of people seek refuge from flooding on high ground. Huddled on a hilltop, they are safe from the rising water, but they've become clear targets for lightning. 39 people are killed when lightning strikes the elevated spot. The storm finally passes in Ostler Lake Provincial Park. As day breaks, one of the worst storms in living memory has left the park devastated.
When the sun came up, it was very evident that the amount of damage on the ground was much more significant than we first anticipated. And our eyes were quite opened at the amount of damage and the amount of trees that were down. It looked like very much a tornado had gone through.
These severe thunderstorms carry extremely damaging events with them. Flooding, hail, rain. Imagine Mother Nature going into her closet with all of her arsenal of weapons, and she is picking and choosing pretty much a little bit of everything.
We looked around and nothing was recognizable. The hail had stopped, but it literally looked like a snowstorm in July had happened. You could see your breath. It was extremely cold, and there was ice everywhere.
At 7:30 in the morning, Mike Foley issues a mandatory evacuation order.
There was significant damage to the park as well as to the campers and their equipment. So it was pretty devastating. Every single road in the park was blocked. You couldn't have pushed a stroller through for the most part. It was there was that many trees down.
They were like full-blown campers that were like toppled over. Some woman, she was going to go to her truck with her kids for safety. It's a good thing she didn't, because a big tree was right through her car. The trees were pulled right out of the ground, and these are huge trees. Oyster Lake has some of the tallest trees. They were broken in every direction. The place was just, it was destroyed.
As the Florida sun shines brightly in the sky, 12-year-old Braden Muller is in the hospital. His life is on the line after being hit by a rogue strike from dry lightning.
My wife arrives, and it was very hard. She walked around the corner, and I saw in her face, you know. And as a dad, you're supposed to protect your kids, you know, so. You know, seeing her face, I felt like I let her down, you know?
At the hospital, Braden's parents meet with doctors.
We sit down in a little hallway type of area, and he starts telling us, talking about end-of-life care. Organ failure, brain damage. A lot of things we didn't want to hear.
Braden is fortunate. Like 90% of people struck by lightning, he survives.
They didn't tell me at first what happened. I remembered it. I had shot the ball and it had gone in the right side of the goal.
5, 6. You're doing awesome.
After 11 days in hospital, Braden is allowed to go home with his family.
I think retaining information, I think that's been the biggest struggle. I just feel like my memory isn't as good.
I'm glad that he doesn't remember a lot of it, because it was bad. You couldn't even lean over and talk to him in his ear because your breath on him hurt him. You know, he expressed numerous times wanting to die because he didn't want to deal with it anymore.
In Stouffville, Ontario.
Wow. Yeah.
Chris and Simon Burden are back on the golf course where they saved the life of a man struck by lightning during a mutant thunderstorm.
The daughter of the man we saved reached out and wanted to connect with my brother and I, and they wanted to meet us to say thank you.
Hello, Chris.
You look amazing.
Hello.
Hi, great to see you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Oh, man, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're my angels.
It's intense that it just happened right there. People don't know the history of this spot and what happened here. I always receive a text message from his daughter saying thank you, that I get one more Father's Day with him.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
For saving my dad's life.
And Simon. Thank you very much.
The vast amounts of greenhouse gases that have been released into our atmosphere have transformed the sky into a threat looming over us.
A warming climate means that there's more energy in the atmosphere, and more energy in the atmosphere can mean more storms, it can mean stronger storms, and as we move forward in the next years and decades, we're expecting to see a lot more of these extreme events.
Warming temperatures could increase violent lightning storms in areas where there were once a rarity, making wildland fires more common, while injuries from lightning strikes could skyrocket. More violent hailstorms in North America and Europe could routinely destroy property, cause serious injuries, or even death. And forests everywhere, essential for cleaning carbon out of the air, could be destroyed by powerful windstorms. The mutations in our atmosphere are here to stay, at least for now. And we have just begun to see how the mutant sky will wield its power against us. The new breed of superstorms may transform our environment into a place that is incompatible with human life as we know it.
I think my perspective has changed on storms. Whenever I see a storm that's close by, I am a lot more, I wouldn't say afraid, but I'm certainly a lot more intensely vigilant of the risks. Whenever I close my eyes, it's very easy for me to see that day. I can see the weather, I can see the storm. It's going to live with me for the rest of my life.
It was very concerning to see the amount of damage and a little bit emotional that the park had been changed in such a significant manner. And ultimately, it took 21 days before the park was able to reopen to the public.
My husband and I refuse to go camping again. It just doesn't seem safe to us anymore. If a storm comes, we're inside. And I see the storms getting worse. I mean, they're getting stronger, especially our lightning storms. Everything is it's intensifying.
The intensification of convective storms is an unforeseen consequence of burning fossil fuels.
By lowering our carbon footprint a little bit, we will slow down the rate of change, but we're certainly not going to stop it.
Got that much more CO2 or methane up into our atmosphere, that's going to intensify warming and just continue to really dramatically intensify all of those other cascading impacts that we know come from a warming climate condition.
The greenhouse gases in our atmosphere will take centuries to dissipate. The sky holds new threats for us now, and it will not return to normal in our lifetimes.
I am worried. I really am worried. I think that these storms are so destructive, you know, as they already are. And if things were to get worse over the next 100 years, that could be really bad.
Sure, our climate has varied in the past. Sure, it's actually even been somewhat warmer in the past. But those changes happen over the span of hundreds, thousands, even millions of years in some cases. We're now seeing rapid change over the span of years to decades.